Look, I never wanted to be that guy. You know the guy. The one who makes a massive public scene that ends up with people staring, whispering, and pulling out their phones to record. I am genuinely a quiet person. I just want to do my work, pay my bills, and go home to my golden retriever. But sometimes, the universe decides to test you. Sometimes, the universe sends you a middle-aged woman with a horrible spray tan, an asymmetrical haircut, and an entitlement complex so massive it has its own gravitational pull. I am talking about the kind of woman who genuinely believes that retail workers are a lower species. I am talking about Brenda. And let me tell you, bringing Brenda down a peg was the single most satisfying moment of my entire professional life. To give you some context, I own a local specialty wholesale grocery and home goods store. It is a members-only place, kind of like those big national warehouse chains, but focused heavily on high-end local products, organic foods, imported cheeses, and premium household items. It took me 15 years of eating cheap ramen noodles, working 80-hour weeks, and saving every single penny to get the business loan to open this place. It is my absolute baby. I know every single inch of the 30,000 square foot building. I know exactly which fluorescent lights flicker when it rains. I know the exact squeak of the back warehouse doors. And more importantly, I know my staff. I have 65 employees, and they are like family to me. I pay them well above minimum wage because I remember what it was like to scrub floors for peanuts. Because I built this place from the ground up, I refuse to be one of those absentee owners who just sits in a fancy glass office staring at spreadsheets. No, I like being on the floor. It keeps me grounded. 2 or 3 days a week, I put on a standard company polo shirt, a pair of faded blue jeans, and my scuffed-up brown work boots, and I help out. I stock shelves, I unload pallets, I break down cardboard boxes. I love the physical work. The customers do not know I own the place. To them, I am just a guy with a box cutter and a bad knee. And honestly, I prefer it that way. It lets me see how my business actually runs. And it lets me see exactly how some people treat my staff when they think the boss is not looking. Which brings us to Brenda. Let me paint a picture of Brenda for you. Brenda lives exactly 3 streets over from my house. Yes, we live in the same town, in the exact same neighborhood. She is known on our local community internet message boards as the ultimate neighborhood menace. She is the kind of woman who will literally measure your front lawn grass with a wooden ruler and report you to the homeowners association if it is half an inch too tall. She drives a pristine, blindingly white luxury sports utility vehicle that is roughly the size of a military tank, and she parks it like she is completely blindfolded. I am not kidding. She actively seeks out the parking spaces right near the front doors of my store, the ones clearly painted and designated for expecting mothers or disabled veterans, and she will park diagonally across 2 of them. Every single time. I have watched her do it on the exterior security cameras. It is absolutely infuriating. She steps out of her tank wearing these ridiculous oversized designer sunglasses that cover half her face, even when it is completely overcast outside. She wears these loud, heavy heels. You can hear her coming from 3 aisles away. Clack, clack, clack. It is the sound of impending retail doom, and she smells strongly of a nauseating mix of cheap imitation vanilla perfume and maximum hold aerosol hairspray. It is a scent that aggressively lingers in the frozen food aisle for 20 solid minutes after she has walked away. Before I tell you how Brenda completely destroyed her own life, do me a favor and smash that like button. It helps me know you want more stories like this. Also, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And have you ever had a neighbor from hell? Let me know. So, Brenda comes into my store about twice a week, and every single time she enters the building, the collective blood pressure of my entire staff spikes. She is notoriously rude. She talks down to the cashiers. She leaves frozen meat sitting on the dry cereal shelves because she is too lazy to walk back to the freezers. And she constantly demands ridiculous discounts because the packaging on a box of crackers has a microscopic dent in it. My first personal run-in with her happened on a Tuesday morning. I was in the back corner of the store, reorganizing the organic peanut butter display. I was wearing my most faded, beat-up company polo shirt. It even had a tiny tear near the bottom hem from catching on a nail a few weeks prior. I was kneeling on the floor, rotating the heavy glass jars so the oldest inventory was at the front, standard retail stuff. Suddenly, I hear the dreaded clack, clack, clack of her heels stopping right behind me. I do not even have time to turn around before I hear it. Snap, snap, snap. She literally snapped her fingers at me. You know that feeling, right? That sudden, hot flash of absolute primal rage that washes over you when another human being snaps their fingers at you like you are a disobedient dog? It takes everything in my power not to crush the jar of peanut butter in my hand. I take a deep breath, paste a polite, painfully fake retail smile on my face, and stand up. She looks me up and down, literally scoffing at my dusty jeans and my worn-out shirt. "Hey, shirt," she says. Yes, she actually called me shirt. Go to the back room and find me the imported Italian sparkling water, the lemon flavor. The shelf here is empty. I look at the shelf. The shelf is indeed empty because our supplier had a massive logistics delay and we were completely out of stock. I politely inform her of this. "I am so sorry, ma'am, but we are completely sold out of the lemon flavor right now. We should have a new shipment arriving on Thursday." She glares at me from behind those ridiculous oversized sunglasses. "I did not ask you for an excuse. I told you to go check the back. I know you people hoard the good stuff in the back so you do not have to do the heavy lifting. Go look." I could have told her right then and there who I was. I could have ended it. But I did not. I am a petty man, and I wanted to see exactly how far she would take this. I wanted to observe the pure, unadulterated entitlement. So I nodded. I walked all the way to the back warehouse. I stood there for exactly 3 minutes, staring at a blank wall, just killing time. Then I walked back out. "Sorry, ma'am, I checked everywhere. We are completely out." She rolls her eyes so hard, I am surprised she did not pull a muscle. "Useless," she mutters loudly. "Absolutely useless. It is a miracle you people can even tie your own shoes in the morning. You're lucky to even have a minimum wage job." She aggressively shoves her shopping cart past me, intentionally clipping my knee with the metal wheel, and stomps away. I just stood there, biting the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted copper. I decided right then and there that Brenda was living on borrowed time in my store, but a good revenge is like a slow-cooked brisket. You cannot rush it. You have to let it simmer. 3 weeks go by. I am avoiding her, mostly observing her from the security camera monitors in my upstairs office. I watch her terrorize my staff. I watch her scream at a 16-year-old cart pusher because he accidentally walked too close to her precious white tank in the parking lot. I watch her throw a massive tantrum at the customer service desk because she tried to return a half-eaten prime rib roast, claiming it was too tough to chew. It was a $70 piece of meat, and she had eaten more than 50% of it. My general manager, David, handled that one. David is a saint of a man who spent 20 years in corporate retail before coming to work for me. He calmly denied the return, and she spent 10 minutes screaming that she knew the owner personally and would have David fired. I was laughing so hard in my office, my ribs physically hurt. She had no idea who the owner was. Then came the second personal encounter. It was a Saturday afternoon, our busiest time of the week. The store is absolutely packed. I am on the floor, helping reset a massive end-cap display of bulk paper towels. I am standing on the third step of a yellow rolling ladder, holding a massive bundle of paper towels over my head. Suddenly, bam! Something rams hard into the bottom of my ladder. The whole ladder violently shakes. I lose my balance, drop the paper towels, and grab the handrails for dear life, barely stopping myself from falling flat on my back onto the concrete floor. My heart is pounding out of my chest. I look down, and there is Brenda, She had rammed her oversized shopping cart directly into the base of my ladder, and she is laughing, an ugly, snorting, utterly obnoxious laugh. "Oops," she says, without a single ounce of genuine apology in her raspy voice. "You really should not leave your ladder in the middle of the aisle, sweetie. It is a safety hazard." I was tucked against the shelving unit. The aisle is 12 feet wide. She had a massive amount of room to go around me, but she intentionally hit the ladder. I slowly climbed down. I am shaking with anger. My knuckles are completely white. I look her dead in the eye and say, "Ma'am, you need to be careful. You could have seriously injured me." She completely ignores my statement. She points a manicured acrylic fingernail at 3 heavy cases of bottled spring water sitting on a bottom shelf. "Since you're just standing around complaining, you can make yourself useful. Put those 3 cases of water in my cart and do not scratch the leather on my purse while you do it." Every fiber of my being screamed at me to kick her cart down the aisle. But my brain was working on overdrive. The plan was forming. The trap was being set. I wordlessly picked up the heavy cases of water, each weighing about 30 pounds, and loaded them into her cart. She did not say thank you. She just looked at my scuffed brown boots, wrinkled her nose in absolute disgust, and walked away. That was the breaking point. The gloves were off. I went straight up to my office, locked the door, and pulled up her membership profile on the computer system. Our store has 3 tiers of membership. Brenda had the basic entry-level tier that costs $50 a year. Yet, whenever she argued with my staff, she constantly bragged that she was a premium elite tier member who spent $50,000 a year at my business. I looked at her actual purchase history. In the last 12 months, she had spent exactly $412, and she had aggressively returned almost 30% of the items she bought. She was completely unprofitable as a customer. She was a net negative to my business, a menace to my staff, and an absolute nightmare of a human being. It was time for her to go, but I was not just going to send her a polite cancellation letter in the mail. No, that is not my style. I wanted her to feel the exact same public embarrassment she inflicted on my teenage cashiers. I needed the perfect moment. I looked at the store calendar. Our massive store-wide annual inventory count was scheduled for the following Wednesday. Inventory day is the most stressful day of the year. We do not close the store for it. We do live cycle counts while the customers are shopping. It requires total concentration. Everybody is on edge. I always take the hardest sections. I knew Brenda always came in on Wednesday mornings immediately after her morning Pilates class. It was the perfect storm. When Wednesday morning rolled around, I woke up feeling a strange mix of deep anxiety and absolute thrill. I drank 2 cups of black coffee, kissed my dog on the head, and drove to the store. I purposefully chose my absolute grubbiest outfit. I wore a pair of faded denim jeans with a grease stain on the left thigh, and my old gray company polo shirt that had paint flecks on the collar. I looked like a guy who had been working in a coal mine for a decade. I grabbed my clipboard, my electronic scanning gun, and headed straight to the pasta and sauce aisle. It is a high-traffic area, directly in the center of the store. Perfect visibility. If you are enjoying watching this entitlement get crushed, hit the like button. It shows me that you appreciate sweet revenge just as much as I do. Trust me, what happens next is going to be satisfying. Well, not for Brenda, of course. I am kneeling on the cold concrete floor, painstakingly counting individual glass jars of imported marinara sauce. It is a premium brand, selling for roughly $12 a jar. I am deep in the zone. I am counting away. 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I hear it. The clack, clack, clack. My heart rate instantly spikes. I do not look up. I keep my eyes glued to the jars of sauce. The footsteps stop right behind me. I can smell the aggressive vanilla perfume burning my nostrils. "Excuse me," her raspy voice barks out. "Move out of the way. I need to get to the olive oil." I am technically blocking a small section of the olive oil, but there is plenty of room for her to reach over. "Just one moment, ma'am," I say politely, keeping my voice perfectly calm and steady. I am right in the middle of an inventory count. "I just need to finish this shelf. It will take 10 seconds. "I did not ask you how long it would take," she shrieks. "I told you to move." Before I can even react, she aggressively reaches directly over my shoulder to grab a bottle of oil. In her reckless, angry movement, the sleeve of her oversized, cheap-looking trench coat snags perfectly on a glass jar of the expensive marinara sauce I just lined up on the edge of the shelf. The jar teeters. Time seems to slow down. I watch the jar fall. It hits the concrete floor with a massive, sickening crack. Thick, dark red tomato sauce absolutely explodes everywhere. It splatters all over the floor, all over the lower shelves, and completely covers my right work boot and the bottom half of my jeans. It looks like a horrific crime scene. Complete silence falls over the aisle. Several customers nearby freeze and turn to look. I slowly stand up. I look down at my ruined pants. I look at the shattered glass and the pool of red sauce. Then, I look at Brenda. Instead of apologizing, her face contorts into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Her face turns the color of a ripe plum. She points a trembling finger directly at my chest. "Look what you made me do!" she screams at the absolute top of her lungs. Her voice echoes off the high metal ceilings of the warehouse. "You were in my way. You completely distracted me. You lazy, incompetent fool." I look at her, my face completely deadpan. "Ma'am, you reached over me and knocked the jar off the shelf. You need to be more careful." That was the match in the powder barrel. She goes absolutely nuclear. She starts stomping her feet right on the edge of the sauce puddle. "Do not you dare talk back to me. Do not you dare. You are nothing, you hear me? You are a minimum wage nobody. I demand to speak to your manager right this second. I want you fired. I want you thrown out onto the street." She is screaming so loudly that spit is actually flying from her lips. A crowd is now officially forming at the ends of the aisle. I can see a few people pulling out their cell phones. This is exactly what I wanted. The stage is perfectly set. "Manager!" she shrieks again, waving her arms frantically. "Get me a manager right now!" Right on cue, David, my general manager, comes jogging down the main center aisle. He looks out of breath. He pushes through the small crowd of onlookers and steps into the sauce-covered war zone. David takes one look at the shattered glass, one look at my sauce-covered boots, and one look at Brenda's violently red, screaming face. He immediately assesses the situation. He looks at me, and I give him a very slow, very deliberate nod. It is our unspoken signal, the signal that means, let her dig the hole as deep as she possibly can. "What seems to be the problem here, ma'am?" David asks, using his best, most soothing customer service voice. Brenda aggressively turns on David. "The problem? The problem is this absolute moron." She gestures wildly at me. He was blocking the aisle, refusing to move, and then he deliberately shoved his arm into mine and made me drop this sauce. He assaulted me with a jar of sauce, and then he stood there and cursed at me. He used foul language. It was a complete, fabricated lie. An absolute work of fiction. I just stood there, my arms crossed over my chest, letting her spin her web of deceit. "Is that so?" David says, keeping a perfectly straight face. "Yes," she screams. "I am a premium elite member of this store. I spend over $60,000 a year in this absolute dump. I personally know the owner of this company. The owner and I are close personal friends. We go to dinner. If you do not fire this pathetic, useless man right in front of my face, right this exact second, I will call the owner and have you both fired. I will ruin your lives." David looks at me. I look at David. David bites his lower lip to stop himself from smiling. "Ma'am," David says slowly, "you are claiming that this employee shoved you, cursed at you, and that you personally know the owner of this company?" "Yes!" she shrieks, stamping her foot again. "Fire him. Take off his name tag and fire him right now. I slowly reach into my back pocket and pull out a bright blue microfiber rag. I calmly wipe the tomato sauce off my hands. I toss the rag onto the floor. I take a step forward, closing the distance between me and Brenda. I look her directly in the eyes. The crowd at the end of the aisle is dead silent. You could hear a pin drop in that massive warehouse. "That is a fascinating story, Brenda," I say, my voice low, calm, and completely devoid of any retail politeness. She flinches. She clearly did not expect me to know her first name. "How do you know my name?" she demands, her voice faltering just a tiny fraction of an inch. I ignore her question. I turn to David. "David," I say loudly, making sure the entire crowd can hear me. "Could you please go to the front desk and pull up membership account number 8402? I need you to completely cancel the account. Refund the prorated amount of the $50 basic tier fee in cash and permanently ban the associated name from all store property." Brenda stares at me, her mouth hanging completely open. "What are you talking about? You cannot do that. You are just a shelf stalker. You are a nobody. David, fire him!" David looks at her, a massive, gleaming smile finally breaking across his face. "Ma'am, I cannot fire him." "Why not?" she screams, her voice cracking in panic. I take one more step forward. I am standing so close to her, I can see the terrible application of her foundation makeup. "Because, Brenda," I say, pronouncing every single syllable with absolute crystal clarity, "I do not just stock the shelves. I own the shelves. I own the inventory. I own the building. I am the owner of this entire company. And quite frankly, I am sick and tired of watching you verbally abuse my staff. I swear to you, the physical reaction was like watching a balloon violently deflate. The aggressive red color completely drained from her face, leaving her looking pale and sickly. Her mouth opened and closed 3 times, like a fish gasping for air on a wooden dock. She looked at me. She looked at David. She looked at the crowd of people pointing their phones at her. You are the owner?" she stammers, her voice shrinking down to a pathetic, tiny whisper. "Yes," I say, crossing my arms again. "And for someone who claims we are close personal friends who go out to dinner, you really should have recognized me. Now you have exactly 2 minutes to leave my building before I have you escorted out for trespassing and destruction of private property." The sheer panic in her eyes was intoxicating. It was the purest form of justice I had ever tasted. But true to her nature, Brenda could not just walk away. Her ego would simply not allow it. The shock wore off, and the desperate, cornered animal instinct kicked in. She tried to backpedal, trying to laugh it off with a high-pitched, nervous giggle. "Well," she stammers, attempting a horrible fake smile, "if you are the owner, you really should dress better. It is very unprofessional, and you should train your staff to be more accommodating to high-paying customers. I was just trying to help you improve your business model." "Stop talking," I say, cutting her off completely. My voice is hard as stone. "You spend barely $400 a year here, and you return almost a third of it. You abuse my teenage cashiers. You ram your cart into my ladders. You lie to my managers. You are a terrible customer, and from what I hear around the neighborhood, you are a terrible neighbor too. You are banned for life. Get out!" She gasps, clutching her pearls. Literally, she was wearing a cheap plastic pearl necklace, and she grabbed it. "You cannot ban me. This is public property. I know my rights. I will sue you. I will call the Better Business Bureau. I will destroy this place." She plants her feet and refuses to move, crossing her arms and sticking her chin out. I sigh. I reach up and tap the small radio microphone clipped to my collar. "Marcus," I say into the radio, "we need a removal in aisle 12. Bring the trespass paperwork." Less than 30 seconds later, Marcus arrives. Marcus is our head of loss prevention. He is 6'4" tall, weighs 250 pounds, and is built like a brick wall. He used to be a professional bouncer at a very rough nightclub downtown. He is the gentlest, kindest man you will ever meet, but he looks absolutely terrifying. Marcus steps directly in front of Brenda, completely blocking out the fluorescent overhead lights. He looks down at her. "Ma'am," Marcus rumbles, his voice deep and authoritative. "It is time to leave the premises, immediately." Brenda looks up at Marcus. She looks at the massive width of his shoulders. She looks at the completely unamused expression on his face. Her absolute false courage evaporates into thin air. "Fine!" she shrieks, grabbing her empty shopping cart and violently shoving it to the side. "This place is a complete dump anyway. The produce is always rotten. The prices are a joke. I am taking my business elsewhere." "Please do," I say cheerfully, "and please, drive safely. Try not to take up 3 parking spots at your next destination." The crowd actually chuckles. A few people even start doing a slow clap. Brenda turns on her loud, clacking heels and begins the longest walk of shame in the history of retail. She stomps down the main aisle, her head ducked down, furiously trying to escape the hundreds of eyes staring at her. I follow about 20 feet behind her, flanked by David and Marcus, just to ensure she actually exits the building. She pushes through the front electronic sliding glass doors, absolutely screaming obscenities into the parking lot. She stomps over to her massive white tank of a vehicle, furiously digs the keys out of her oversized purse, and climbs in. She slams the door so hard, I thought the window glass was going to shatter. She starts the engine, aggressively throws the vehicle into reverse, and absolutely floors it. She peels out of the parking space, tires squealing loudly on the black asphalt, and almost clips one of our heavy metal shopping cart return corrals on her way out to the main street. We stand at the front doors and watch her speed away until her car disappears over the horizon. The immediate aftermath inside the store was incredible. The entire front-end staff, the cashiers who had suffered her wrath for months, broke out into actual, genuine applause. My young cashier, Sarah, who Brenda had previously reduced to tears over a coupon dispute, walked up to me and gave me a massive, unprompted hug. I was completely covered in dried tomato sauce, my boot was sticky, my knee throbbed from standing on the concrete, and my heart was racing. I felt like I had just won the absolute lottery. I told David to order 5 massive premium pizzas from the fantastic local Italian restaurant down the street. I bought lunch for the entire staff that day. It cost me roughly $200, and it was the best money I have ever spent in my entire life. Of course, a Karen like Brenda never goes down without throwing a final tantrum on the internet. Later that exact same evening, I was sitting at home on my couch, drinking a cold beer and petting my dog, when my phone buzzed with an alert. A brand new 1-star review had been posted to our local community business page. It was a massive, rambling, unhinged essay written by Brenda. She claimed that the owner of the store was a violently aggressive man who assaulted her with groceries, used horrific language, and had a gang of massive thugs intimidate her out of the building simply because she asked a polite question about a product. She urged the entire town to completely boycott my store. I calmly opened my laptop. I logged into the official store owner account. I did not write an emotional response. I did not argue with her lies. I simply typed a very polite, extremely professional reply. I stated that we do not tolerate customers aggressively throwing glass jars at our employees, and I explicitly mentioned that we had over 40 high-definition security cameras covering the entire sales floor. I stated that I had already securely backed up the footage of her deliberately reaching over an employee, breaking the merchandise, and subsequently lying about being assaulted. I finished the public reply by politely asking if she would like me to publicly post the unedited video footage to the community message board so the entire neighborhood could see exactly what happened. She deleted her review in less than 15 minutes. Completely vanished from the internet. And the absolute best part of this entire story? The neighborhood dynamic. Remember how I said we live 3 streets away from each other? Word travels incredibly fast in a small suburban neighborhood. People saw the deleted review. People talked. The cashiers talked to their parents, who talked to their neighbors. Within a week, the entire neighborhood knew exactly what happened at the store. Brenda went from being the terrifying neighborhood dictator to being a complete pariah. She no longer measures people's grass. She no longer complains about trash cans. In fact, she actively avoids human contact. If I am out walking my golden retriever on a Sunday morning and I see her walking toward me on the same sidewalk, she will literally turn around and power walk in the opposite direction just to avoid making eye contact with me. She knows that I know exactly who she is. She knows that her entire fake persona of a wealthy, influential, untouchable elite member is completely shattered. I still work the floor 2 days a week. I still wear my faded blue jeans and my grubby company polo shirts. I still stock the shelves. I still break down the cardboard boxes, and I still sweep the concrete floors. But my store is infinitely more peaceful now. My staff smiles more. The tension is completely gone. And every time I walk down the pasta aisle and see those $12 jars of imported marinara sauce, I cannot help but smile. Because sometimes the absolute best revenge is just letting an entitled person completely destroy their own fragile ego while you stand there in a dirty shirt and watch it happen.